Hey everybody, this is the Patzer and this is the chess.com puzzle for June 19th, 2019. This puzzle was a tough one for me. I didn't get it. Uh, as I always do, I played it. I played the puzzle on the app on my phone, and if you've ever played the puzzle on the phone, you know that there's a little light bulb icon which you press when you need a hint, and the hint is basically the next move in the puzzle. And I ended up just pretty much clicking through the hints all the way to the end. And when it was over, it was one of those puzzles that ends, and you say to yourself, okay, well, this looks promising, but I'm not sure how. Anyway, let's take a look and see what happens. Move number one is pretty obvious, and that is that the white rook checks the king, which obviously, nothing much the king can do about that. So the king gets out of the way. And then the queen scoots over, and here you can see that the next move is for the rook to come down there, take that pawn, check again, and really, keep the king on the move, keep it running, keep it scared. So the next move is the queen moving down and covering the pawn, so that that move is really unavailable to white. So white then does this. Okay, well, we'll check. We'll check here. Black defends, says, all right, you want to trade queens? Let's trade queens. Queen moves over to check again. This time the king moves out of the way. Queen doesn't move over. I'm not really sure why it doesn't this time. Maybe it's because that other rook can come into play and make things messy. Anyway, that's what happens. Black rook moves over to protect the king, and now the queen moves down to check. Now, that's the puzzle. That's the solution to the puzzle. You get this far, you've solved the puzzle. Now, from this position, you think, okay, well, if the king moves again, like here, for example, then, the white rook takes the black rook with pretty much with impunity, and that's on the plus side. If the king or the queen moves over here, obviously the goal is to have your queen take his queen. King moves down, you take, and you're ahead that way. All right, fine. But what happens if the queen goes down here? Then you take the queen and the knight takes the queen, and you come down like that to check, and the king comes over here, and now it's a little messy, it's a little ugly. You're going to lose a rook. So it's a kind of a pick your poison kind of deal. So, you take the black rook, you got to get rid of that rook. And now, as you can see, it doesn't really matter which rook the king takes, because the other rook is going to take a knight in the transaction, So if the king takes this rook, then the rook comes up here. King's got to get out of the way, like so, and like that. Or other way around, this way, and it goes down like that. So, either way the king goes, you're in a much better position here. You've got a rook and black stuck with a knight. And you kind of like your odds as far as getting a pawn promoted, because obviously, your king is going to get rid of that pawn. You'll be a pawn up. All right. So, okay, let's take a look at how the Stockfish engine played in this position. it starts out exactly the same way as the puzzle. Queen moves up this time, which I thought was interesting because it's not protecting the pawn. I'm not really sure why white doesn't take the pawn here. I didn't bother figuring it out. If you know why, you want to say something in the comments, be my guest. But it starts to look kind of the same. And here is, that's what black does. Black brings the queen down. And, it's kind of a way I described it. And now it's all a matter of promoting that pawn. Obviously, black wants to promote its pawn. And what's interesting in this position is, I thought, okay, well, how long is the rook going to wait before it takes that pawn? And no, not much longer. And now it's a matter of making sure that, as you can see, the the black knight kind of gave up. But what's really interesting to me here, and I've said this before, I have a terrible time defending against knights. Knights kind of creep me out. I have a terrible time using them as weapons. I have a terrible time defending against them. And in this game, Stockfish just thought, okay, I got to get rid of that knight, and I'm willing to sacrifice the queen along the way because, hey, I'll promote another one. And as you can see, it's, all right, mate. So, tricky puzzle. It's a war of attrition. It's the kind of wars that I'm uncomfortable with in chess. That's why I'm a Patzer. But, if you're willing to bite the bullet and keep on going, well, you're gonna stay in charge, even if it means trading queens that early. That's just the way it goes. So maybe that's what the chess.com people thought you should be thinking. Maybe that's what better chess players do when they see that puzzle. I didn't see it. I had to work through it, but the result for white is still very good. So that's the puzzle for June 19th. This is the Patzer. Get out from behind the 8 ball. I'll speak to you soon.